Hi, today I'm going to be going into Effexor, or venlafaxine, into a little more detail with that drug. So, Effexor is an antidepressant and anxiolytic. It's indicated for major depressive disorder, generalized anxiety disorder, seasonal affective disorder, and social anxiety disorder. There might be, and OCD. There might be a couple of indications I'm not remembering, but it's a serotonin norepinephrine reuptake inhibitor. So generally, people would move on to Effexor as it would be a second option after SSRIs have failed them. Also, if tricyclics have failed them, Effexor and SNRIs can sometimes, in some cases, be effective for that. So the difference between an SNRI versus an SSRI is SSRIs only touch serotonin, the serotonin transporter on the axon terminals of neurons, but SNRIs also touch norepinephrine. So if you imagine the chemical, like I was saying with my propranolol video of a kind of lock and key, that idea that you have a chemical that can go and it can go bind to a certain protein. So in this case, if it's antidepressants, it'll go bind to serotonin transporters like a lock and key. So you could imagine an SSRI is the perfect key just for that serotonin transporter, nothing else. Whereas an SNRI is kind of a chunky ball with two keys sticking out of them. One fits nicely in the serotonin transporter, meanwhile the other norepinephrine key sticking out, not doing anything. However, on a norepinephrine transporter, the other side of the molecule will go and bind. So a good way to think about it is, yeah, like a chemical with two different keys attached, and the keys can bind to two different receptors. With Effexor, it's much more efficient at binding to serotonin than norepinephrine. So generally in low doses, it acts like an SSRI. So doses from 37.5 to 150, it's acting like an SSRI. There's not a lot of norepinephrine binding. However, doses above 150, so let's say 150 to 225, it acts like a norepinephrine reuptake inhibitor in addition. So now the second key is effective now because of the increased concentrations, because it's not as efficient with the norepinephrine. At doses above 300, it also interacts with dopamine. So I guess you could consider it as a third key on it. But generally, people don't go above 300 milligrams. It's quite a hefty dose. There are a lot of cardiac side effects with this antidepressant. Other antidepressants don't necessarily have these kind of cardiac effects. It could increase blood pressure, causes tachycardia, racing of the heart. Generally, these are experienced in higher doses. So stuff like venlafaxine or Effexor can actually be a toxic antidepressant. A lot of SSRIs are relatively forgiving in overdoses. You can overdose, but generally the range of toxicity is fairly high. However, with SNRIs like Effexor, they're more toxic in higher doses, so it's easier to OD on them, unfortunately. But they're often very effective antidepressants after tricyclics and SSRIs have failed someone and they're looking for a second-line treatment. The pharmacokinetics of venlafaxine aren't so great. Basically, it has a relatively low bioavailability, and as well, the half-life is very short. So like I said before, half-life is the amount of time it takes for half of the amount of Effexor you took to be metabolized. So the half-life is, I think it's 10 to 12 hours, so really, really short. So that means after 5 half-lives, it's officially out of your system. So unlike other antidepressants, most have half-lives of 24 hours plus, but Effexor is fairly short, and there are a lot of drawbacks to this, especially concerning withdrawal side effects. Effexor is one medication that you don't want to skip one dose. If you do skip a dose, you might feel like you're in a club with the strobe light set on full blast. So Yeah. So for instance, problematic antidepressant like Paxil has a half-life of 24 hours. If you skip a day, you might notice something, but it's not going to be too bad. However, something like Effexor, honestly, if you go on this med, you have to make sure you stash a couple away somewhere so that you don't run out. It's not a med that you would like to run out of on short notice. This is almost like you have to take it like insulin sometimes. Oh, I mean, nothing bad's going to happen, but you're just going to feel really, really crappy during an acute withdrawal that your Effexor's totally out of your system because you hadn't taken it for the next day or two. So there's Wyeth, which is the manufacturers of Effexor. It's now owned by Pfizer. They made Effexor XR, which is the extended release formula. So, but before that, you had Effexor IR, the immediate release. And since it had such a short half-life, you had to take these pills in 3 doses, or 2 to 3 doses during the day. That's kind of a hassle, right? You'd think that just antidepressants nice to take, once daily dosing instead of, a couple of hours later you have to take the next dose. And what more, if you take the IR, you're much more likely to crash if you forget even a single dose in the day. So YF came out with Effexor XR, which is the extended release. So basically, it has the same half-life, but since it slowly releases the drug into your system, it takes a while for your blood concentrations to peak. The Effexor, the venlafaxine concentrations in your blood to peak. So it kind of delays the absorption and the release of the drug, leading to a kind of smoother experience, and it allows for once daily dosing, unlike the immediate release. Now side effects. People experience nausea when first starting up, especially in the first couple of days, kind of dizziness, they're kind of uncoordinated, sometimes lethargic. Another side effect that people will notice almost immediately is very vivid dreams. And these can follow you well into the treatment. So they're initial startup side effects as well, but these vivid dreams tend to stay to some extent, and they're quite involved. They have pretty complex plot. When they're disturbing, they're really disturbing, and when they're good, they're really good. A couple of times I would wake up and I don't want to go back to sleep again. They're very, very intense. Sometimes it's not a restful sleep because it's just like you're caught in the middle of this really intense plot. So you're not really resting. It's not lulling. It's like, oh crap, you got to run somewhere. Or I had a dream last night that this huge train was filled with lead shot and it was going to hit a wall, and you had all these workers that needed to go on top of the train and spread out the lead shot evenly so it can go under a tunnel. But they did it at the last minute, and then they ducked so their head didn't get, so they didn't get decapitated by the tunnel entrance. And the dream 2 days ago had to do with emigrating to Mars. You had to take a space shuttle, but of course the space shuttles were waiting like in the water. Like a boat. Like that's how you took off. You just took off from the space shuttle floating in the water, and admission was free. You could just walk on. I think it was the UN. They were encouraging you to emigrate to Mars because Earth was getting too full. So, I was running away from someone. I needed to escape something that they were chasing after me, going to shoot me or something. So I saw a dock, I saw the dock full of these spaceships. So, so I'm running to them thinking, oh crap, I'm going to need a ticket. And, where's the ticket booth? I got to buy stuff. So I'm freaking out looking for a ticket booth. Can't find the ticket booth. And then I just go up to one of the shuttles that hadn't taken off yet. And I say, could I just get on? And, sure, no problem at all. Welcome aboard, do I need to bring anything? No, just come in. And the door shut almost immediately after, so I made it at the last minute. And then it was kind of nice inside. It was spacious. They had a bar. The seats were dirty. I had to remove a couple of food trays with some pretty fine foods on it. There was caviar. I was sitting next to a short person, and they were telling me their story. It was quite interesting. But a lot of the seats were empty. They also had an option where you could. There was a Spaceship 2000 aboard. You know, the kind of cyclone at amusement parks. So this is, I guess, it was really big inside. It didn't look big from the exterior, but the spaceship was huge inside. So yeah, so they had a a centrifuge amusement park ride inside. So I went on that. It made me dizzy because first of all, you're experiencing the G-force of the launching spaceship on top of being in the gyroscope. That was very nauseous. It was very cool. I was quite happy to be on board and running away from whatever was chasing me back on Earth. So yeah, stuff like that, and I could see it's a full involved dream, and I woke up from that and say I don't want to go back to sleep. It's just more work, so I just got up. Sorry if that was boring. I think the dreams are quite interesting. There are a lot more. Some are pretty dark, but some are quite funny. But of course, you never question the strangeness in a dream when you're in the middle of a dream. You notice that it's like someone could say complete, gibberish to you, and you would understand it. It's very strange. Like you never say this is weird. It's just the next situation. You're just like, okay, sure. Like of course that makes sense. Of course that would happen next. Absolutely. Okay, let's go on. You don't say, well, this is weird. It's not real. So anyway. So there's my little tangent on Effexor dreams. So that's all I could think about for side effects. Actually, no. A big one is aggression. At the start of the treatment, this medication can make you really, really edgy and snappy at people. This does go away. You have to ride it out, but it's really, really intense when it happens, and you almost need to warn people that you're on the edge. Like you really will snap at someone. This could also indicate that the dose is too high. But yeah, just inform people that or wherever you are, that I don't know if you want to, that I'm on a new drug and I might be irritable and snappy. It catches you by surprise. You don't even want to tell them because you're so pissed off. So it's not really good. You just want to wallow in your own anger. You just get angry. So yeah, talk to your doctor if that happens. It's not particularly good. Like I said before, it could indicate that the dose is too high. I think that's all I can say on Effexor. It's often very effective for, as the guy at Crazy Meds mentions, it's effective for a whale shit at the bottom of the ocean form of depression. So it says the worst of depression. It's good for anxiety, but it's a coin toss because unlike SSRIs, which tend to be sedating, Effexor sometimes can act like a triple espresso. It can make people pretty agitated and on edge, at least during the start of treatment and during the higher doses, above 150 when the norepinephrine action starts kicking in. So that could also indicate if the dose is too high, and agitation, the irritability, the insomnia, so this kind of activating side effect. So that could indicate that the dose is too high. And even if it's not, just wait it out, see if it goes away. But yeah, just be careful with this medication in withdrawing from it. You hear some horror stories, and they are all true. I can attest to that. Talk to your doctor when you're going to withdraw from this. Like I said before, keep a couple stashed away for emergencies. Some people will go to the emergency department if they've stopped taking their Effexor cold turkey by accident or deliberately. They'll have a panic attack. It feels awful. I experienced this to some extent during Lexapro, but of course this kind of crisis happened 5 days after I stopped the Lexapro cold turkey because of the short half-life. So now that I think about it, if I imagine that maximum Lexapro withdrawal uncomfortable period that I experienced 5 days after stopping, I can almost picture the Effexor withdrawal to be just that taken out and just experienced right away. So it doesn't progressively get worse. You just get the worst of antidepressant withdrawal immediately, just because of the short half-life. So yeah, just be careful with this med. It's often very, very effective. I find it very effective. I'm less lethargic. I'm more outgoing. I want to do more things. So it has been working for me. Like I said, I'm not taking it for the depression aspect. Certainly, it elevates mood, but I'm taking it more for the anxiety. But yeah, so be careful with Effexor. It might be a good med for you. And thanks for watching.